Okay, hi Lancer, hi Nick, and hi Paul, and more people are coming, so we're waiting. Well, not quite waiting, we're chatting. So, hi Aisha, yes, hi guys, and hi everybody. Okay, I'll go to the chat. That's what I will do. Exactly, Aisha. So, in the chat here, okay, I will say hello, and I will invite you to say hello from. Okay, in my case, it is Houston, Texas, which is, by the way, the third largest city. It bypassed Chicago, I believe, and so it is New York, Los Angeles, and then Houston. Okay, so thank you very much for being here. I'll share the screen. I'll give you the link that you need. And why do I thank you? That's because with your help, I'm forced to learn something every week. And since I promote exactly that, every week and every day learning, that aligns perfectly well. So I'm sharing the screen, going to our what we're going to talk about, and that is right here. Well, really, right here. Then I'm giving you the link. Okay, giving you the link on chat. And that is what you can open. Once you open that, I will see the little pictures which will say uh, anonymous crocodile, something like that, anonymous mink, and so on. Okay. Anonymous ferret. Very nice. Okay. So, hello. What we're going to talk about is listed already here. Today, December 12th. And we will look briefly at the news as delivered by very nice Andrew A. And we'll look at what is interesting to us. Then we will also look at the course and try to put it in perspective. What course is this week? The new course. It's always the new course. Okay, so for those who are new potentially here, that is the link, learning path, that tells you what you should learn. And many people ask, okay, that's a lot of stuff you're talking about. So tell me what I should learn. Well, that's what you should learn. You click on that link. That's at the top of our page, right here at the top of our page. What we're doing is what's new in AI. And at the top of our page, we have what is the latest and greatest, and maybe not the greatest, but the latest. Here you see 95 or 119, depends upon how you count. We will look at multi-vector image retrieval. So we'll come to that. We'll come to that. We'll come to the course itself, what it teaches you. But then we will look at it in a bigger perspective because you want to know why. Why are you given this course? That's what we will do today, okay? So here we are. That's the plan. We'll look at the news. We will look at the multi-vector image retrieval, and that's most important. And then a few smaller items about Kiro and about TOON, okay, token-oriented object notation, and then whatever comes up. So let us start with that news. It's here. And, okay. And Andrew, in this time, he talks about his own course on Agentic. And he says a very interesting thing is that start whichever way you want, and you will definitely start pretty badly. That's how he starts. He says you can write a few lines of code, and that will give you an agentic something, and it will be highly unreliable. To really become good at that, he says, you need to continue with my course or any of the courses that there already are published under my umbrella. And he says that's a little AI suite that he and his friend created, Rohit Prasad, and you can start doing a little agentics. Again, what's agentic? That's a hotly debated, but anything that has to do with agents. And agents means I'm delegating my work to you, AI, and you do whatever you want to do. That's the very loose definition of agentic. Okay, the link, Manuel Fernandez, that is the link. So first of all, you need that link. There you are. That's the link to complete about 3 years of every week, every Friday, we were meeting and discussing what's going on. That's the link. Now, in that link, there are all others links. For example, you will see the learning path link manual, and you will see what we're talking about today here. Okay, these are all the links that you need. So when we're talking about the news, the other interesting piece of news, now that's the course we will look at, was that it seems like everybody is getting smarter and smarter. Everybody meaning AI. Getting smarter and smarter and learning from each other. I hope I didn't stop the screen. Learning from each other and getting to the same levels of performance. That is what is going on in the world. Yeah, that is different models. Let's say Opus 4.5, Sonnet, the Opus before, Gemini, and GPT. So GPT 5.2 came out just a day ago, but these are pretty much on the same level of intelligence by now. So you can use any one of them. And I think it's also becoming a fashion. Developers say, have you heard that Gemini is very smart now? And everybody flocks to Gemini. That is what I personally, I think, feel that's going on. That is what I can get from here, and nothing special. So that's all about the news that I have to say. If you have some interesting piece of news, then please uh, show them here. I also read the newsletters from security, and the last thing that I saw, and it here is also, is that there is an initiative in AI in the government of the U.S. to push and to create a science something with AI, but at the same time, there are other competing in the government, competing forces that want to stop the access to data. So he says that's contradicting each other, and that's enough about the news. Now the course. The course is right here. It is in our repo. And what is interesting is that we do have a previous course. So who is that from? Okay. Who needs this multi-vector image retrieval? That's what I couldn't get at first. I'll show you the course. But what he says is that we previously showed you the course. So I'll go there. I'll go there, and we previously showed that course, and it was Intro to Quadrant. Quadrant. That's the name of the database. So what is this kind of database? I was investigating it right here, and I said, tell me about this database. And what they said was that is a high performance open source vector database for semantic search and for AI retrievals. So if you are that, if you are open source vector database and you are competing against Pinecone, for example, the way, at least the way I see they do it, is they should look very, very smart. They are the best specialists. That's their positioning. The best specialists, and they really know how to do it. Now, if you ask how do they make money, it's showing the world that they are really open source as opposed to all others. But of course, they do supporting services. The contrast, the Wave8, Pinecone, and Milvus, they are all well, more money oriented. Let's put it this way. Okay, now that we know that, we can go and really look at what are they. Let's go there. And the first thing that they say, look guys, it's our second course. Okay, the first course was right here. I just showed you, I think. That was the first course. And you indeed, you can find it even here. If you go into our courses, and if you look for quadrant, spell it like this, QDRA, okay? Then you'll find them. That's the second time they're here. But that was the first time they're here. And the first time was, well, calculate the number of entries, divide by 7, and that will be how many days ago. So I would say a few months ago. And that was an introduction. And again, they give you a good theory of exactly how this smart database work. Now they're giving you a higher level and deeper theory. Okay, let's go. It's right here. So first of all, what you need to know to understand this is what is that vector database as opposed to keyword database. So what it is, of course, is something made for RAG, and you somehow convert your text into a vector, and that's it. So you convert all your texts. Now, their performance is okay even with billions. So you convert as much text as you want into vectors, and then when a new request comes, you convert that also into a vector and find the closest vector. So that way you get context. You get 10 or 100 different relevant pieces of information, send it to LLM, and it will tell you what is right based on that. Now, that's the general theory. If you go deeper, and that's what they do here, they go deeper and they say that there is a biencoder and cross encoder. So, biencoder is just a new name for our encoder. It's nothing new, that is exactly how you do the RAG. So, you take every piece of your information right here, and every document you convert into a vector. How big? Well, my number is always 1536, but they're usually between 500 to 5000 in length. That's the document converted to a vector. And now that is the query. It is also converted to a vector. And now you find the one that is close. Well, it turns out that here you need to be more scientific, more understanding. So yeah, you can do it, but think of that. I always wondered, that's an old technology. That technology, I think, is based on what Thomas Mikolov did in 2013, and therefore it's 12 years old by now. So there are improvements. What are the improvements? The first improvement is called cross-encoder. Cross-encoder does it in two steps. It is retraining the model, in fact. So it says, yeah, you have all the documents, you have your query, retrain it together with your previous call. So first you do by encoder, then you find 100 similar by meaning, and in this 100 similar by meaning, you do another training, and you add your query to the documents. So that's very logical, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's very slow. The usual size that you can do is 100 documents. So you go into a billion, you get 100 documents. In this 100, you also retrain and look again. It won't be all that fast, and it's not. So instead, they show you that there is a new model. It's for essentially that same thing, but optimized. Okay, it's called Colbert, remember BERT, and it's multi-vector document representation. One of the uses will be different kinds of vector. One comes from picture and one comes from text. Now, at this point, you wonder, why do you need it? I mean, why do you need to go to that level? It's the same as I would ask you before you do something with AI, go and learn how that works on the LLM level. So I think that whole course is nice. You need it, but it will all be in the end packaged into a library. So you don't really need it. That's what I think. And instead, you will just use it. But to impress you, to tell you that, yeah, guys, we understand everything here. That's why this course is here. And so essentially, it's for smarter search, better performance. And one of the advantages, of course, that all others are payable. For example, I use Pinecone, still didn't get away from it. And Pinecone used to first you would run a virtual machine. That's how it used to be. Then they switched to functions on any cloud, so you can only pay for what you use. But that wasn't giving them enough money, so you still pay 75 per account. That's the minimum, plus more if you really use more. Well, that's $75 a month. Some people may not like it, and that one would be free. Okay, so that's how the competition lays out. Now he goes into exactly how I retrain or kind of retrain my model for each question. So again, the idea was explained here. We did a bind code, the regular code. Then we added one more step and retrained. Get me 100 best pieces. It's still not perfect. Perhaps the 101 best pieces was probably the best. But as you can see, you can settle for compromises, and that's what we do here. Okay, the end result is that we do this retraining, and you see how dog might align with puppy and how that may be the best answer. But there are also asymmetry, and it seems like when you train the whole model with first all the documents and then the query, it's one thing. And when you train it first with the query and then with the documents, it's another thing. And that creates another technical issue. Well, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that it's pretty hard. I'm convinced that I should try them, those who know. And I already told you when you would use it. By the way, as I was investigating it, I realized that, yeah, I should use it, right? We have our tool that I can't avoid talking about that because I'm working exactly on that very hard. So there's the tool. One thing that we added to that tool, well, it's a research tool, but it is also an e-discovery tool. What it does is you load all the data, and then you ask questions. So it's what everybody does. What we added, and maybe I can show it to you real quick. Let me try that. No, I won't show it. But what you do is you work with your tool, but I have one more button, and that button says, don't you want to save all your data? In other words, yeah, you processed everything. You created all the uh, keyword queries, you created all the semantic queries, but the next time you upgrade your software, it's all gone. So you click here to save your data. That's what I'm working on right now, and more and more fun is expected because that tool works in two ways. It can be an e-discovery, but can also be like a research journalism. I got a heap of data. I don't understand what that is. Can you tell me? Okay, that is what I was talking about with where I really need to use the database. Maybe exactly this quadrant is exactly the one instead of Pinecone. Okay, I'll tell you next time. I'll tell you is that something that we would love to use. Okay, and that's it. That is what's new in the world, and that is what's new in this new and interesting course. So don't forget, you have two courses to go through, and I think you should start from the first one. Prerequisite is this one. Okay. If you want to play with it, I would say go into this one. Now, when you go into this, you will see a few things. And, well, let me show you the real one to explain, because I think it's not formatted properly, but the real thing is here. The advanced, so to say, course here in our repository. And that's what I showed you. But what I usually do is the README, and that README has a reference to the real course. So that's the real course. Well, I should do the same for the prerequisite, and then in fact I should make it convenient. And in the previous one, say that that's the follow-up, and this one I should say that that is a prerequisite, and that way you have full knowledge, full control of a very smart, free open source database. And I ended up promoting that because it exactly fits my needs. All right, now uh, we talked about Kiro. So I showed you that I got this Kiro, it's working. But how it works, well, let's go to a project. Go to some project, for example, this same free project. Okay, so here we are. What you do is start Kiro. And you started from that same place where your project is, so different IDEs have their own preferences. And what you see is a lot. You see a lot of things, and the question is, so what is it? Well, it turns out it's everything. It's from Amazon, okay? It's built on top, anything that it wants to tell us. Built on top of, I think, VS Code, right? It's very polished. Update is available, right? But what is it? So the end result is that you can think of it. It's not just an idea because it has a lot of AI, not just a little bit AI, but a lot, and it is also uh, an ID bit because it does have all the bells and whistles of an ID. So it's everything. It's an ID with a coding agent that lives inside. By the way, by now we can show each other what we do, and I use usually IntelliJ. IntelliJ. Okay, and that IntelliJ by now it has a choice of different AIs. So that's my project, that same project, but open in IntelliJ, and it always gives me some kind of error. And on the right here, I have Copilot. So I can say, Copilot, tell me something. I want just to chat to you, and I want your opinion on something. Or I can say, and do the work also. So let's go to Copilot here, Copilot chat, and you will ask what you think should be done. And then here, okay, you have either ask, but don't do anything, or edit or agentic, on the whole plan. So that's how it works. And besides, you can include many different AIs. So there is Junie, right? There is Copilot, a different version, something about a chat, and I think there is an AI from IDE itself, from IntelliJ. Well, lots of AI, and that agrees with what we said. We said in the beginning that according to Andrew Ng, they are becoming smarter and smarter, and competing and getting to close levels. So, whom did I hear people praise? The last praise came from Gemini 3 from Google, and my co-worker, he uses VS Code with Gemini. That's one possibility. Looks very nice. And then another came from Anthropic, and the third one, of course, is here. Okay, that's my practical what I'm doing right now, and you asked this question about token-oriented object notation. So first of all, what is it? And secondly, well, where do you place it in the world? That is where this is. And it is, let's go. You say it's open source, pretty popular, and it deals with JSON, but it deals with a format. It's human readable encoding of JSON data. But as it turns out, it's not exactly that. It is a engine-to-engine conversation language. So I immediately remembered that we already had a course on something similar. Okay, what did we have a course on? If I search on JSON, oh, I didn't. Okay, so I went to discuss this anyway here, discussion point. I remember that's what I remember, dot txt. So dot txt is also a common language, but this one is more for humans and to computer. So therefore you have two similar things. One is for machine to machine, even though it says human readable. And the other one is, so if you want to use JSON, then keep in mind that different models will give you different JSON. It's nice to say, give me JSON. I just have a project exactly like that, where we take a document, police document, and tell it extract JSON. But it extracts different JSON from different formats. So if you want to be standard, that's what you would use. Well, how do you make sense of that? Well, that's where I made sense of it, if it works. Okay. So it's TOON, according to that, was technical, and it was technically excellent, but it was for computer-to-computer talk, as opposed to .txt, and there is no course on that as yet. But on .txt there was course. It's for humans to be included, and that's for developers. That's what I would say. Now, I'm closing that. I see that there are at least a couple comments, and now we can address these comments. Okay. Is there a file share that you missed, Crystal? Yes, Crystal. There is the very first link that you need. It's right here. So that is the link that you all need to get to the top of that page, and everything is a link, open link from there. Yes, what did we talk about? We talked about quadrant, and where did you find it? I think quadrant will be good enough to find. Let's see. You see the competitors right away, but the quadrant is this, and what it says right away is that it's a high performance search at scale, and I think that course justifies that. Okay. Now, question from Lancer: is anybody here using Kiro? That's interesting. You know, my friend, I don't use it. I haven't. I got the. I'm lucky a guy to run it, but and my friends do the same thing. When you ask them what should you use, oh, use Kiro, but they themselves don't use it. So that's a good question. I'm sure some people do use it. It's an entry from Amazon, and over there you could see that it is a strong entry for enterprise coding. It's a little bit formal, so it enjoys being in the Jira environment and GitHub environment, but I don't know if anybody is using it. All right, so let's do this. Let's switch all of that off and ask you if you have questions or suggestions for next time. Okay, questions. suggestion. And even take away my pitch. All right. No questions, no suggestions. What I wanted to suggest is I did want to suggest something. Well, because we don't have anything to suggest, let's do this. Let's wait till next week. So let's take it easy. I wish everybody a good weekend. Okay. Okay, Crystal. So you're creating a chatbot, and that's wonderful. I would give you two links. Yeah. Because you are doing this, I would say, first of all, here's a great story from Andrew A, and I'm giving you that story about things that you can do with chatbots and agents. That's one. And the second, of course, is the learning path. So let's go there. And that's because, yeah, you're doing something. It's very good, but here is a link to what I call the learning path. And whether you know much or little, but it's always good to learn more. So here you are. That's where you can choose what to learn. Now, let me look at the previous. What is image multi-vector retrieval? That is if you want to build some smart thing, and smart things usually has two parts. Part number one, find out more. Part number two, give advice. So give advice comes from AI, from some model. But part number one, to find out more, that calls for what's called semantic database. And multi-vector retrieval includes images as well. You can convert not only text but also images. You can convert that into a vector, and then it becomes another vector. But should you treat that other vector somewhat different from text vector? Well, that's what the course is about. Where is the course? Best of all, if you go to the education, which I just gave you, this education, AI education, and at the very end, that's where that course is right now. You see, it's right here. Yeah, that's somebody's looking. Oh, me. All right, that's the one. But keep in mind, it's Quadrant, and they already published the introductory course, so both are good. Okay. Yes, IntelliJ now supports, wow, local inference from Juni. Oh, very nice. Okay. All right. That's deep discussion. All right. In any case, I enjoyed this, guys. I enjoy your questions. I wish you all the best and a great weekend and a wonderful year to come. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.